Looking for magic cards? At flipsidegaming.com you can now use the promo code LVD to get a 10% discount on orders over $10 while supporting the channel at the same time.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Wacky Wednesday, a weekly series where we explore wacky deck ideas in both Standard and Modern, and this week we're taking a look at Aetherflux Storm in Standard, a mono-blue combo deck built around Aetherflux Reservoir, a 4-mana artifact that says whenever you cast a spell you gain 1 life for each spell you've cast this turn, so that's very reminiscent of the Storm mechanic, and at any point we can pay 50 life to deal 50 damage to any target, so that's our win condition. We're gonna gain a ton of life in one turn and then deal 50 damage to our opponent to win the game. So in order to get above 50 life we need to cast around 10 spells in the same turn, which is where all our cheap artifacts come in. Cards like Mox Amber and Ornithopter are 0-mana artifacts that we can easily cast to increase our storm count without requiring any additional mana. Then another very important piece of the puzzle is Paradoxical Outcome, 4 mana for an instant that lets us return any number of non-land, non-token permanents we control back to our hand, and we get to draw a card for each permanent we return this way. So that's a great way to pick up all our cheap artifacts like Mox Amber, Ornithopter, and the other 1 mana and 2 mana artifacts as well, and then draw a whole bunch of cards, which hopefully finds us the remaining combo pieces. Speaking of combo pieces, another very important card in the deck is Inspiring Statuary, 3-mana artifact that says non-artifact spells we cast have Improvise, which means when we cast those spells we can tap any number of untapped artifacts we control to help pay for the generic mana cost, which means a card like Paradoxical Outcome suddenly only costs a single blue mana if we can tap 3 untapped artifacts we control, so that's where cards like Mox Amber and Ornithopter actually start paying off, since we can actually tap them for mana instead of just being a 0-mana artifact that doesn't do anything. And especially with Paradoxical Outcome it's very easy to tap a number of artifacts since we're going to pick them back up with the Paradoxical Outcome anyways, so it's kind of free to tap them for mana for Improvise. So that's the general game plan of the deck. Now let's go over each individual card. We've got 2 copies of Mox Amber, which doesn't really tap for mana in our main deck. We don't have any legendary creatures or planeswalkers, so it only taps for mana thanks to Improvise. And the same goes for Ornithopter, can also chump block in a pinch. Then we also have 1 copy of Navigator's Compass, which is a 1-mana artifact. When it enters the battlefield, we gain 3 life, so that's useful for padding our life total, and maybe that requires us to cast 1 fewer spell when going off with Aetherflux Reservoir to win the game. And if we're picking up the Compass with a Paradoxical Outcome or Baral's Expertise, we might be able to gain that 3 life multiple times, and then the Compass can also target one of our colorless lands, so it can also generate blue mana, which could also be relevant in some situations. We also have 4 copies of Renegade Map and 1 copy of Traveler's Amulet, which are very similar in their function. They're just cheap artifacts that count us spells when going off with Aetherflux Reservoir. We can pick them back up with a card like Paradoxical Outcome for increasing the number of cards we draw, but we can also sacrifice them at any point to go get a basic land if we need that, and that also helps us decrease the number of lands we need to play in the deck, which is useful since when we're drawing cards with Paradoxical Outcome we don't really want to draw a ton of lands since we're mostly looking for cheap artifacts to increase our storm count. Then we also have 4 copies of Prophetic Prism, another cheap artifact that draws us a card, so fits the theme perfectly. We also have 3 copies of Glint-Nest Crane, which when it enters the battlefield we can take a look at the top 4 cards of our library and reveal an artifact to put into our hand, so it gives us some artifact selection as well, helping us find the missing pieces, and also provides a 1/3 blocker which can be useful against the more aggressive decks. Then of course the 4 copies of Inspiring Statuary, which is a very important card, and without it it's very difficult to combo off, since having it reduce the cost of our non-artifact spells is very important to be able to cast Paradoxical Outcome and Baral's Expertise for 1 or 2 mana. Then we have 3 copies of Metallic Rebuke, which serves as some interaction for the opponent, a counter spell for 3 mana with Improvise, so if we can tap 2 artifacts it's only going to cost us 1 mana, which is very useful. Then of course the 3 copies of Aetherflux Reservoir, which is a card we need in play in order to win the game. And of course having multiple copies in play also helps, since that reduces the number of cards you need to play in the same turn in order to win the game. Then 4 copies of Paradoxical Outcome, which is another very important combo piece, and it's also very difficult to win the game without it. Then also at 4 mana we have Commit to Memory as another interactive spell that serves as a counter spell or a bound spell with Commit, and then the memory side is also useful in our deck, especially if we have Inspiring Statuary in play, and the memory side might only cost us 2 mana as a way to refuel and draw 7 cards, and of course the opponent also gets to draw 7 cards, but thanks to our bound spells we kind of get to offset the effectiveness of the opponent drawing all those cards. And speaking of bounce spells, we have 3 copies of Baral's Expertise, which is great in our deck as a way to maybe bounce some of the opponent's more expensive cards, but also as a way to bounce our own artifacts to make it easier to storm off with Aetherflux Reservoir by being able to recast all those cheap artifacts once again. And it also lets us cast a card with converted mana cost 4 or less from our hand without paying its mana cost, which is a great way for us to sneak an Aetherflux Reservoir into play, since the Inspiring Statuary only helps us cast non-artifact spells, so it doesn't actually help us reduce the cost of cards like Aetherflux Reservoir, but if we can simply cast a Baral's Expertise for 2 mana, then that's a way for us to put the Reservoir into play anyways on the cheap. And then last but not least, 4 copies of Reverse Engineer, another great draw spell to help us refuel, 5 mana with Improvise to draw 3 cards, so most of the time it's only gonna cost us 2 mana if we can tap 3 artifacts. And then the mana base is pretty straightforward, 13 islands, then 4 copies of Zhalfirin Void, which is a great addition from Dominaria. As a colorless land, when it enters the battlefield it lets us scry 1, so helps us dig for the missing combo pieces. And then also 1 copy Inventors Fair, which helps us gain some life if we have multiple artifacts in play. And we can also sacrifice it if we have a ton of mana to maybe look for an Aetherflux Reservoir or an Inspiring Statuary. Then taking a look at our sideboard, we have 2 copies of Baral, Chief of Compliance, which is great against the more controlling decks, helping us make our instants and sorceries cheaper, and when we counter something we also get to loot, which is very useful. And of course, after sideboard, Baral is a lot more effective when the opponent has taken out all their removal spells against us. We have an additional copy of Glint-Nest Crane against the more aggressive decks, 2 copies of Sorcerous Spyglass, which is also pretty versatile and can shut down cards like Planeswalkers or Gate to the Afterlife and so forth. Then 2 copies of Jace's Defeat to help us counter blue spells, including cards like Torrential Gearhulk, and then 3 copies of Negate to help us counter any non-creature spells. Then we have some value creatures to help us draw more cards, 1 Quicksmith Spy, which is great at turning an artifact into a source of card advantage, and Padeem, Consul of Innovation, which also helps us give our artifacts hexproof, which is very useful when they're trying to kill our Aetherflux Reservoir, for example, and also lets us draw additional cards if we control the artifact with the highest converted mana cost, which is going to be the case most of the time. And then 3 copies of Karn, Sign of Urza, which is also a great alternate win condition, helping us make those artifact tokens that get bigger and bigger the more artifacts we have in play, or just as a source of card advantage with the +1 and -1 abilities. So that's the deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Alright, we're on the play, and this hand looks pretty good. We've got some Glint-Nest Cranes, which can hopefully find us some more artifacts, some lands, and then some interaction with commit memory, so seems fine. Let's lead with a Void. Wouldn't mind a 3rd land. Ooh, do we want a Reservoir? I don't think we do at this point yet, since we don't have the Baral's Expertise, we don't have the Statuary yet. Definitely wouldn't mind drawing a Reservoir at some point, but I think I'll wait for now. Turn 1 Dauntless Bodyguard. Matches up pretty poorly against our turn 2 Glint-Nest Crane, but of course I can have a Banalish Marshal in a turn or 2 to pump up the Bodyguard. I think we still run out Crane here, over the map. Alright, we've got some decisions here. Compass, Prism or Amber. Yeah, I think we still go with the Mox Amber. It's either that or the Prophetic Prism, I think. Prism does draw us a card, but we already have Glint-Nest Crane as a play for 2 mana. I think we just go with the cheaper one here. And say go. And Adanto Vanguard's pretty annoying since that can attack past our Crane, and our opponent will happily pay 4 life for it. Alright, drawing the island here was nice. So we can reverse engineer if we want to. The other option would be playing the Crane, but again that doesn't really block the Vanguard. I guess playing the Crane is good in case our opponent goes Banalish Marshal next turn, we can still double block the Bodyguard. I guess that's an okay argument to play the Crane. And then wait a turn on the reverse engineer, it's probably fine. And here we find another Reservoir or Prophetic Prism. Now I think I go with the Reservoir. And then run out the map. Say go. Let's see if they have the turn 3 Banalish Marshal. If they don't. Alright, that's fine. think we just take 3 from the Vanguard. Don't really want to sacrifice a Crane quite yet. And a Knight of Grace, sure. Alright, picked up a Prophetic Prism anyways. So let's see, we can play Prophetic Prism, sack map for Island. Yeah, that works. So I think we want to shuffle first, since we put some nice cards on the bottom of our deck, like Baral's Expertise, that I wouldn't mind drawing. So yeah, let's sack Renegade Map. Play Prophetic Prism. Draw a card. Ooh, Statuary is a nice one, but I think I'm fine playing Reverse Engineer here, use up all our mana. And this just goes to show how important these 0 mana artifacts can be. Draw 3, hope to find some action. Alright, perfect, Paradoxical Outcome is exactly what we were looking for. So next turn, we can play a Statuary, so that our 0 mana artifacts tap for mana, and then this outcome's looking pretty good. 4 mana for On Sarah's Wings, wow, for the Adanto Vanguard, that's pretty good, but we do have the Commit Memory to bounce a Vanguard, so I think that's still gonna work out fine for us. This opponent gets in for 4, we'll take it. Alright, so now what? So definitely want to play the Statuary. And then I guess we can still play the Renegade Map. And say go. Probably just gonna commit Adanto Vanguard. We can double block, make them pay for life, and then still commit. Seems pretty good. So Vanguard attacks. We'll block. Opponent's gonna pay for. And now we can commit the Vanguard. And that's gonna set our opponent back quite a bit. And cast out's probably gonna get the Statuary here, which is annoying. But at least our opponent's not pressuring us on the board, so we have time to draw out of it. Alright, so we'll play the Reservoir and say go for now. And then next turn we can outcome and pick up all our cheap artifacts. Alright, there's the Banalish Marshal I was talking about. So now our opponent does have some decent attacks. Can definitely still double block the Bodyguard though, so they might just send in the Knight of Grace. Nope, send in both. I'll double block. Take 3. Untap. Find another Ornithopter, that's not bad, so we get to play that. Gain a life. And then outcome for a bunch. And our opponent scoops it up, alright. On to sideboarding against the mono-white aggro. So how do we wanna approach this one? I do like most of our main deck. Wouldn't mind another Glint-Nest Crane. And let's see here. Padeem could also be okay at protecting our artifacts against various disenchant effects, cast outs. It's not a great blocker, it's definitely a better blocker against mono red than it is against the mono white aggro deck. But it's probably still worth bringing in. And then what do we take out? Can probably shave a commit memory. I like all the Baral's expertises. Metallic Rebuke could also be a bit clunky when we're on the draw, so I could see taking out at least one copy. Yeah, think I like this. If our opponent has a blazing fast draw, we could be in trouble. But anything a little bit slower we should be good against. Alright, so this hand, I don't think we can keep too many lands. Even though we do have the double Void, I think it's still not good enough. Alright, this one I can get behind. And I don't think we want another expensive draw spell. Alright, let's run out Amulets. Turn to Adento Vanguard. Alright. Let's play Renegade Map. And could play Ornithopter to gain 1 life with the Inventors Fair, but we are gonna have to sack the Amulet for an island, so I don't think there's any point. And then next turn we can go Ornithopter Reverse Engineer, which is not bad. Alright, turn 3 Banalish Marshal, so opponents definitely on a more aggressive draw than they were last game. This Baral's Expertise is gonna have to do some work, so hopefully we can get to it in time. Grab an island. Alright, another Ornithopter is not bad, given the outcome and reverse engineer situation, so let's run out 2 Ornithopters. And then reverse engineer. Do need to tap double blue. I guess we just tap the Ornithopters, and then the question is, do we tap Inventors Fair or the Renegade Map? We already played a land for the turn, so I think we tapped the Renegade Map. In case we pick up a 1 mana card we can play. We did not. Alright, so we're gonna take a beating here. But on turn 5 we will be playing Baral's Expertise, which is not bad. And we can also Paradoxical Outcome in the meantime. So we'll take 7, down to 9. Let's see if they can present lethal for next turn. Alright, Glory Bound Initiate, that's a good one. To get to gain a life. So I think our play here is going to be to block with our Ornithopters and then Paradoxical Outcome them back to our hand so they don't die. Seems like a nice line. Don't need another Renegade Map. I guess we can also run out the Mox Amber, since we're going to pick that up with the outcome. Say go, and see what happens. So we will be blocking the largest creatures that attack us here. Which are going to be Initiates and Vanguard. So let's outcome, pick up all the artifacts. And draw 4. It's a pretty good set of draws. Baral's Expertise is going to buy us a bunch of time, and then these other 0 mana artifacts combine nicely with the second outcome. So we have to Baral's Expertise here, and then we're probably just going to put the Statuary into play for free. So this one's exerted, so let's just bounce these. And then put Statuary into play. And then play the least amount of cards possible, just so we don't have to discard to hand size, since we want to keep as many cards in hand as possible for Aetherflux Reservoir if we draw that, to increase our storm count. So we're not taking any damage this turn. Opponent cycles Cast Out and plays Vanguard. Alright, so we have some breathing room here. We can do the same trick with Ornithopters and Paradoxical Outcome next turn. Gain a life from Inventors Fair. So let's play the land. Just need to keep up 1 mana for the Paradoxical Outcome, but we do need to be aware of a potential cast out on the Statuary before we get to block with the Ornithopters. So we might want to play it safe and keep up 4 mana anyways. So let's play Prophetic Prism here. So I guess we're not technically dead next turn, even if they do cast out the Statuary, since they're only dealing 7 damage at the very most, since this gets +1 power. So I guess we can be a little bit greedy here, play the other Prism and the Renegade Map. And a backup Statuary is nice. So say go. Can't play the other Mox Amber since it's legendary. let's block. This time our opponent doesn't exert wisely. And then we can outcome, picking up all our cheap artifacts. And draw a bunch of cards. Alright, let's see what we picked up. I actually didn't pick up the Reservoir yet, which is unfortunate. And also don't have any more Baral's expertises to bounce creatures, so could be in a little bit of trouble here. So let's draw. So let's see here. Can definitely survive another turn just by blocking with Ornithopters, but that's not exactly where we want to be. So I think we want to play the Glint-Nest Crane and then hope to find a Reservoir with it. So I'm gonna play the Zhalfirin Void first to increase our chances of finding one. And I don't think we have enough mana to sacrifice the Inventors Fair to go get a Reservoir. So yeah, let's scry with the Void. And we find a Commit Memory. Don't think we want that. Bottom. And then we'll play the Crane, using the Statuary for mana. Try to find that Reservoir. Alright, there it is, perfect. Play Reservoir. And then play a whole bunch of 0 mana spells. We'll have to sacrifice the Mox Amber here, but that's fine. And then play Compass. Gain some more life. And play Renegade Map. And that should do it. And alright, opponent scoops it up, so we were gonna get above 50 life and then pay 50 to deal 50 to our opponent. And that does it, managed to beat the mono-white aggro. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the play, and this hand seems not great. Just a 1 land. It's kind of rough, don't think we can keep. Alright, this is better. Essentially 2 lands with the Renegade Map. And Inspiring Statuary I think we have to keep, just because it's important to our game plan. So we'll lead with Renegade Map Islands. Draw the Statuary and then hope to find another natural land to go with the one we get from Renegade Map, so we can play the Statuary, go from there. Turn 1 Bowmat Courier, so we know what we're up against. Some red aggro deck. Could be red-black, could be mono-red. There's lots of flavors of a red aggro nowadays. So let's sack Renegade Map, get an island. Play the island. And I guess we'll play Ornithopter just as a blocker. Maybe could have done that last turn as well. But sometimes you want to keep them for your Aetherflux Reservoir Storm count. But in this case we could have prevented 1 damage. And they're just going to shock it. So that was also a reason to maybe keep it, since we can pick it back up with the outcome. Same goes for Fatal Push. Sometimes it's better to just hold on to the Ornithopter until you need it. Alright, did not find the card we needed, did not find the land, so we're stuck on 2 for now. I don't think we run out Ornithopter. The chances of it getting killed on the spot are pretty high, and I would rather keep it to go with the outcome. Blocking a courier also isn't great with the Ornithopter if they just play Chain Whirler afterwards. Alright, Metallic Rebuke, we can at least cast that one. Yeah, I think we have to let the Lightning Strike resolve. There's just scarier cards. A Braid on the Mox, well, might as well. And there's Hazoret, which I wanted to save the Metallic Rebuke for, but if they upgrade the Mox Amber, then we can't even keep up the Metallic Rebuke to begin with. And that's just gonna kill us. Alright, so that's a quick loss to mono red. Did mulligan, didn't find a third land, so it's all relative. Alright, let's go to sideboarding, where we get to bring in an additional Glint-Nest Crane, and then we could also bring in Padeem as a way to give our artifacts hexproof against Braid and maybe draw some extra cards, and a 1/4 body can also block pretty nicely. Don't think we can bring in the Spy, which dies to all the 3 damage removal. Karn is also interesting, just making some big blockers could be useful, but I think we want to try and still combo off. Let's see, what do we take out for the extra Crane? Probably just a Commit Memory, just because it's a slow card. Sure, it can bounce a Hazoret, but so can a Baral's Expertise. So yeah, let's try like this. We could also bring in Baral, but he also just dies to all the 3 damage removal, so it's not like against a control deck where they take out all the spot removal. Would like to be on the play. This hand looks okay. Turn 2 Crane hopefully finds us an artifact. And then we can play Statuary this time around, which makes our Baral's Expertise cheaper. Alright, Ornithopter's not bad actually. Let's play the Glint-Nest. And we brick, that's unfortunate. Don't have a very high brick rate. Oh well, let's run out Ornithopter just in case. There's Earthshaker, prevents the Crane from blocking, gets in for 2. That's fine. Alright, let's sack the Renegade Map for an island. Play Statuary. And play Ornithopter, I guess. Nah, I'll keep the Ornithopter, don't wanna tip off that we have an additional artifact for improvise. And if they have an abrade, they probably just abrade the Statuary anyways, but yep. At least we're keeping the Kenra back. Lightning Strike on the Glint-Nest, that's fine. Kenra can attack once again. Need to find one of our draw spells here. Paradoxical Outcome, Reverse Engineer to get the cards flowing. There we go. Play Ornithopter. Play Reverse Engineer. Alright. Ancrop Crasher, yep. Opponent gets in for 5. Alright, so now we get to play Statuary, and then Baral's Expertise, bouncing both of those, and I don't think we want to bounce any of our Ornithopters. I guess maybe we do. And then tap the Ornithopter, 2 lands, and I guess another Ornithopter. And then tap all our artifacts, and then put Glint-Nest Crane into play for free. And find Aetherflux Reservoir, alright. And say go. So next turn we can Baral's Expertise again, potentially, putting the Reservoir into play. Also cast Ornithopter, start padding our life total. Just a Bowman Courier for now. Opponent's keeping up a Braid, clearly. So we're not gonna run out the Reservoir, I don't think. So we'll just say go. Need to find another one of our draw spells. Paradoxical Outcome would be great here with triple Ornithopter. They're probably just gonna braid the Statuary. Nope, Lightning Strike on the Glint-Nest. So how slow does the opponent want to play it, since if they have to keep up a braid at all times, that's gonna be pretty rough. I think we block, even though they could have a Chain Whirler here. If they tap out for Chain Whirler, we have a window to win if we top deck the right card. Instead it's just a Soulscar Mage, and our opponent's gonna keep up a Braid. Padeem would also be a nice draw. Instead, Inventors Fair can also gain us some life back. So now what? We could sacrifice Inventors Fair, get an artifact, but I'm not sure which artifact we would want to get. Maybe a second reservoir? I guess that makes sense. So we need to play out another Ornithopter before we can sacrifice Inventors Fair. And I think we get another reservoir over anything else. Could get another Statuary, doesn't do a ton for us. Could get Navigator's Compass just to gain some life, but that seems bad. Let's just get the reservoir. And then I guess we might as well Baral's Expertise now. Opponent abrades the Statuary, that's fine. Put Reservoir into play. And then cast some more Ornithopters now that we cast a whole bunch of spells this turn. Just to gain some life back. Alright, so we're at 20. Opponent doesn't have anything in play, but we need to find one of our card draw engines here. So we take 3 down to 17. Alright, Metallic Rebuke's not bad. Play another Reservoir. Say go. And now we have the Rebuke for Chain Whirler, so we're fine blocking with Ornithopters. Yep. Gain 2 from the reservoirs. And we still know they have an Ancrop Crasher in hand. Alright, let's hope to find one of our draw spells off this Prophetic Prism. There we go, perfect. Let's outcome, pick up Ornithopters and Prophetic Prism. Don't have the Statuary to really combo off this turn, but it's still gonna be great. Replay a bunch of Ornithopters. And our opponent scoops it up. Alright, on to game 3 against Mono Red. I think I like our plan. Opponent's heavy on the abrades, of course. But we should be able to fight through them. Didn't draw our Padeem, which would have been excellent there. And yeah, the only other consideration I think is Karn, which does deserve some credit as well. Maybe it's better than a Commit Memory in this matchup. Makes sense. Alright, let's try this. And this opening hand seems pretty good. We've got most of the combo pieces we need. Statuary, Reservoir, some card draw, some interaction. Don't have any of our super cheap artifacts to power out this hand, but can't have everything. Alright, down to 19. Opponent keeps up interaction. Play Prism, say go. Another Rebuke. Is this a turn 3 Crasher? No. Is our opponent playing very reactively, or they're just gonna play a Chain Whirler second main? Nope, they're just gonna keep up mana. Alright, I'm fine playing the slower game. So we could play out the Statuary, it's just gonna get abraded. So I think we just want to keep up Rebuke. I'm fine taking one from the Soulscar Mage for a while. Bowman Courier we can't counter with Rebuke, so that one resolves. Alright, Ornithopter will play. And I think we just have to say go, since again, if we run out of Statuary, it gets abraded, which isn't great for us, since we really need the Statuary for the sand to work. I guess we can reverse engineer. It's probably fine.
just to spend our mana. Does open up the window for something scary on the opponent's side, but so be it. And they're just gonna braid the Ornithopter, that's aggressive. And here we get to play our Void. Scry. Don't think we need another island. And then discard to hand size. Can probably get rid of a Metallic Rebuke. This Padeem is also looking pretty good. There's Chandra, that's scary. We can't bounce it with Baral's expertise, unlike most other things. So down to 13 we go. Alright, so can play a Statuary. I guess we can still run out Padeem here instead of the Rebuke, given their opponent's almost empty-handed. That's probably fine. Sure, let's run out Padeem. Force them to minus Chandra. Yep, Padeem's down. Courier gets in there. And wow, opponent with a second braid as well on the Statuary. That's pretty backbreaking. Definitely needed that to stay in the game. So how do we cap it up? Metallic Rebuke, we could have maybe countered the Braid. That's hard to say since our opponent could have just started with the Braid and then had 3 mana to pay for the Rebuke. Alright, Inventors Fair. So now we can Baral's Expertise, bounce 3 of the opponent's creatures and then put the Reservoir into play. That's not bad. So bounce Courier, Soulscar. Could have also bounced their own Prophetic Prism, but alright, opponent sacks the Courier, makes sense. And we get to put the Reservoir in play. And then I think we keep up Metallic Rebuke instead of playing out the Renegade Map. Chandra pluses, reveals Chain Whirler, which we can't counter with Rebuke. Instead they just decide to deal 2 damage. Bowman Courier resolves. And a Lightning Strike would just kill us and they can pay for it. So our hope is that they don't have one. Alright, they go for a Crasher instead to try and go for the kill. We get to counter it. Gain 1 life from the Reservoir. So now we're also not dead to a Lightning Strike. Alright, we get to live for another turn here. Definitely still in a precarious spot. The turn where we lost Padeem and then lost our Statuary was pretty backbreaking. And our opponent replays 1 Soulscar Mage. Alright, let's draw. Let's lead with Prophetic Prism. See what we draw. Alright, a land, that's actually pretty good here. Scry. Amulet is interesting since it's a cheap card we can play next turn to increase our storm count. So I'm actually tempted to keep it on top. And then we can Renegade Map, gain some more life, and then Outcome, picking up our cheap artifacts. Alright, so hopefully we can survive another turn here, and then next turn start going off with all these cheap artifacts with a Reservoir. Oof, Chandra revealing Hazoret. They can discard, and yep, now we're just dead. Exactly dead. That's unfortunate. Needed to dodge a Hazoret there. Otherwise we get to untap, and then gain a ton of life from the Reservoir. But it wasn't meant to be. Oh well. Let's see what we were gonna draw. Glint-Nest Crane's pretty good. Some lands. Alright, so we maybe weren't gonna win this game looking at our next couple of draws, but who knows what would have happened, since we could have also scryed a card to the bottom with the Void, and we needed to draw the other outcome here, We were kind of missing the Ornithopter part of our deck. The Mox Ambers would have helped. Alright, on to the next one. Alright, we're on the play. And this hand looks okay. We've got multiple of our combo pieces. A little light on lands. No cheap artifacts to enable improvise, but I think we still have to keep, given that we have the Statuary and the Outcome. Turn 1 Concealed Courtyard, so it could be the black-white Benalia aggro deck. Alright, Ornithopter is actually a nice pickup, since that lets us play Metallic Rebuke. Turn 2 Scrap Heap. Nope, Servo Exhibition, that's an interesting one. It's not super problematic given that we can block it with the Ornithopter, and it's not like we're gonna do anything if we miss a land drop next turn, so sure, I'll give him the Servo Exhibition. And the fact that they played Swamp means it's less likely that they have something like Banalish Marshal to pump their servos. Alright, picked up an island, that's nice. Is there anything scary at 3 mana they could play? I guess so, something like a History of Benalia. But it is pretty important for us to resolve the Statuary. So I'll play it out. So we could have rebuked the Servo Exhibition. Let's see if we get punished for not doing so. Double Swamp, so History is not a play they can make. And instead, Ruthless Knave. Alright, so they've got some interesting synergies going on here. They can hit us for 1, but they don't seem to be super aggressive or super controlling, which bodes well for our combo deck. Definitely wouldn't mind some more cheap artifacts here to go with our Statuary and Paradoxical Outcome. So we could Baral's Expertise already here, but it's not a super exciting one. So I think we just say go for now. Try and sit on this Commit Memory. Syndicate Trafficker, don't mind using Metallic Rebuke. Keep up our Ornithopter to block the Servo token. So yeah, the cards we're most looking for include Reverse Engineer, cheap artifacts like Prophetic Prism, so we can Paradoxical Outcome for some value. Glint-Nest Crane wouldn't be bad. So we take 4 down to 15. Another Outcome, alright, so we can Baral's Expertise, bouncing 3 of the opponent's things, and then casting the Outcome, bouncing Ornithopter and Statuary just to draw 2. And then we have 1 mana left. It's not great. Could also just block with Ornithopter and Outcome. That might be better. Just gonna cycle one of these Outcomes essentially. Unless we need to commit memory here or something. Pitiless Plunder. Alright, so they're playing this as part of some combo, I think. So whenever another creature they control dies, they get a treasure token, and with the Ruthless Knave, they can sacrifice 3 treasures to draw a card. Think we let the Plunder resolve, and then we'll chump the Ruthless Knave with Ornithopter, and then Outcome bouncing probably the Statuary as well, just to draw the extra card. Alright. Picked up a Reverse Engineer, that's nice. So now we can Baral's Expertise, putting the Statuary into play, bouncing those. And say go. So this just buys us some time. And then next turn we can maybe Reverse Engineer. Let's see which creature they replay. It's gonna be the Plunderer for 4 mana. Alright, take 1 down to 12. Don't mind our position here with Outcome and Reverse Engineer as card draw spells to help us dig for the missing combo pieces. Prophetic Prism is not bad. Let's play Ornithopter and then Reverse Engineer. Alright, play another Prophetic Prism and hope we don't die somehow next turn. Definitely have a lot of card draw. We're missing the cheap artifact part a little bit, and we're missing the Aetherflux Reservoir, but I'm sure we can get to it. Resourceful Return, returning the Syndicate Trafficker. Opponent replays a Trafficker. Opponent's definitely getting some value as well. Take 2 down to 10. Next turn we can chump with Ornithopter again on the Trafficker and bounce it with the Outcome. Inventors Fair is not bad. I guess Inventors Fair is slightly better. Gaining life is pretty valuable at this point. And then we'll reverse engineer. Alright, Mox Amber is a nice one, and Reservoir is as well. So we can play Reservoir. And then play Mox Amber, gain some life. Don't think we're comboing off on this turn, so we'll wait a turn, chump with Ornithopter Outcome, and then on our next turn we might be able to go off if we find enough cheap artifacts. And we do have enough artifacts here to cast Outcome nicely. So I don't mind our position. Can also commit Memory in case our opponents were to combo off somehow. Ruthless Knave seems fine. Don't really see any infinite combo yet, but I might be missing something. Another Trafficker, alright, that's all fine. So their opponent stepped out. So block Trafficker, before damage, Paradoxical Outcome, bouncing all the cheap artifacts. And then pay with Improvise. Alright. Should be able to play enough spells here to win the game. So, can we afford to play another Reservoir? I guess we can. So, play Zhalfirin Void. Don't need Rebuke. Play Reservoir. Play Mox. Play Ornithopter. Play Glint-Nest using Improvise. Looking for any cheap artifacts. Prophetic Prism, not the cheapest one, but I'll take it. And then I guess we can just Outcome again. That'll work. And then play some more Mox Ambers and Ornithopters. And that should be game. Alright, let's pay 50 to deal 50 to our opponents. And that does it. Alright, I want to thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this gameplay. And as always, have a nice day.
I also want to thank all my patrons for supporting the channel, and you can do so yourself as well over at patreon.com/legendvd, where you get cool rewards for supporting the channel, as well as getting us closer to our goals, where with every goal reached, we will release an additional weekly series. So if you want to see more content, Patreon is the place to go.